Hello, hello, and welcome to Flattening the Curve, balancing health, wellness, and family during the era of COVID-19. Y'all, I keep saying COVID. Yeah, this is bloopers. The first part of the show will be bloopers from here on out. So welcome to the era of COVID-19. I'm your host, Paulette Payne, and I have some amazing, amazing women with me tonight. But before we get into their introductions, I want to give you some housekeeping tips. So throughout the show, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions of the guests. Please feel free at any point, type in your questions. I have my producer, my sister, over here giving me questions. So we'll get to them certainly before the broadcast is over. If not, the panelists will come back after the show and answer questions that might apply to them. Also, you have a chance to share, tag your friends in this video. We're going to upload it to YouTube as well, but for now, if you'll certainly share this broadcast with your friends and your network, that would be awesome. For first-time viewers, just a quick background about how this came about. So about 2.5 weeks ago, I really wanted to do something to help, to lend my services during this time of chaos, if you will, because there's so many uncertainties. And I prayed about it. And God told me to use my gift of communication, my experiences in television broadcasting, and my love for people and sharing their stories. And here we are. And I tell you, this week has been nothing short of amazing. Great guests, great conversation, great suggestions and tools and tips to take home and apply to your life as you see fit. So that's the backstory behind Flattening the Curve. So thank you for joining, and thank you if you've been watching all week. I appreciate it. If you haven't been watching all week, go back in the feed and pick up where you left off. All right, so now we are going to go on and get into our guests. I have with us Jobetta Beaver, Elizabeth Stiles, Monica Clay, Kamilah Cole, and Tamika Brown. So if each of you can please give us a little backstory about yourself. Kamilah, we'll start with you first.
Of course. Just throw me into the bus, huh? Here we go. So my name is Kamilah Cole. I work in higher ed here in Atlanta. I have 2 children. I have how old is she? 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. They both go to a charter school in Atlanta. And when Paulette asks me to do anything, I will always say yes, because I just have so much love and respect for her.
Wow. All right, Elizabeth, let's go with you next.
Elizabeth Stiles. So I am a stay-at-home mom. I have 11 children. 7 of them are at home with me still, and 4 are adults and out on their own, and which poses a particular problem for COVID-19 because I can't see my new grandbaby. But I am teaching 6 of my children, and I am also the communication director for the local congregations of my church. So that keeps me a little busy.
I'm sure, to say the least. Monica, what about you?
Hello, my name is Monica Clay. I have 4 children, one that's an adult on her own, not in the home, and the other 3, I have a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 7-year-old who probably thinks she's 16. I'm in the banking industry, and as you can imagine, we've been very, very busy with the PPP program, so my hands are really tied with that, and just trying to balance it all.
Yeah. And before we go to the next guest, I failed to mention the name of this segment. It's Juggling All the Things. Is this real life? Asking for moms everywhere. All right, Jobetta, you next.
Hi. So I have 2 kids. I have a 5.5-year-old girl and a 2-year-old. I normally am a paraeducator in a public special ed preschool. So I am not working right now and won't be until the fall because I'm in Washington State where we've canceled the school year. And I don't really homeschool other than try and talk the kid into using her tablet for Hooked on Phonics for a few minutes a day.
Good stuff. Good stuff. You, Tamika?
unmute. So I am Tamika Brown, and I am the mother of one very recently turned 9-year-old. We still have decorations up in the house because he says that his birthday lasts for 30 days. So I was like, okay, whatever you want. And I am, so I work actually at the Metro Atlanta Area Agency on Aging, which has been interesting, of course, because the work that we do is largely for our very vulnerable population during COVID-19. So I'm the mom of one 9-year-old boy who feels like more than that.
And you guys, I'm telling you, I follow these ladies, and the antics and the stories that I've read and followed, you would love it. And this is why they're here. One, because they're good moms, Two, because they have tips that they can share with you, whether we're in the COVID-19 crisis or not. They have tips and experiences that they can share, and not just for moms, but for all people who are, trying to live and make things work and keep the balls in the air. So we're going to go on and get started. I want to ask each of you, what does a day in the life of each of you look like? Like, what does it look like? And I want to, of course, focus on this time period, COVID-19, but just in general, what does a day in the life look like you, Elizabeth, with 7 children at home?
Oh, well, it looks very different now than it normally does, because I have an infant. And so before she was born, my children start leaving for school around 6 o'clock in the morning. You're up at that time and craziness. But now with a newborn and the stay-at-home order, so I'm in the state of Virginia, we wake up sometime around 7:30, and kind of ease into the day. The thing that I have started doing is at 9 a.m., my teenagers have to text me 3 goals that they have for the day. And I explain to them they're not mom goals. They're not like things that are going to impress me. They're things like they really want to do. So the first day, my teenage son, my 16-year-old, said, I'm going to text mom the goals. I'm going to throw the goals out. And I don't know what else I'm going to do. That was 3 goals of the day. But often, there's some decent goals in there, things that really give them purpose in their day. And then at 10 o'clock, we sit down at the table and we work on schoolwork until lunchtime. And because we're in the school district that we're in, my children are not being graded for the remainder of the school year. So they know this. So what's the motivation of working? Well, the motivation is, my site is getting ready for the next school year, but in their site, you're like, well, why would I do this? So the motivation for sitting down by 10 o'clock in the morning is to keep their cell phone for the next 24 hours. And they've been very responsive to that motivation. And we do a little scripture study. We listen to Harry Potter and do some family history work, and then they get into their school day. After lunch, there's a lot of free time that my children have, and hopefully I get a nap with the infant. And then dad comes home at 5 o'clock. He works at a hospital, and he's an engineer that works at a hospital. So he gets home, we have dinner together, and then each evening we go for our family walk and bike ride before settling in for the evening. So, yeah.
I love
a lot more leisure than we normally would have.
Yeah, I love the piece about having to send you goals just to keep them focused on the why, and it prepares them not just for now, but for the future, keeping these things at the forefront of which you want to go.
And they're really finding what their talents are. They're drawn, I have a son that's drawn to cosplay creation, and a daughter that created an Instagram account for her artwork, one that plays cello, another that plays the flute. And so often those things will come up in their goals. And they're starting to realize, oh, even when I really don't have to do anything, these are the things I want to do. So it's helping them define who they are and what their interests are.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Monica, what about you? What does a day in the life of someone who works at a bank look like with children that are homeschooling through the computer?
At first, it was very crazy. Just trying to manage it all because my job is pretty demanding. Everybody's sitting at home now and have time to go over their finances and whatever else is going on in an email, send out their emails. I was lucky in that my sons had already established an online platform for their learning, so they knew how to log into like their Google Classrooms and submit work and all that. The challenging part was our first grader. She had not been introduced to online platform before with doing her schoolwork, so we had to take a little bit of time to show her the ropes. And now pretty much for the most part, she's running it by herself. I make sure that the kids are practicing a normal life as if we were in school. So that we may not get up at 6, but you're going to get up at 8 o'clock every morning, brush your teeth, get to your breakfast, and get your work started. And, if they keep on, with the program, then you're finished with your work, even before school let out. So we do keep up with their teachers through the different, I guess you would say, not social media, but the contacts we have like Remind or Zooms to make sure that the boys are logging on to their meetings and getting their lessons, because unlike Elizabeth, my kids are still getting graded on their work and we can hear the teachers teaching. So I have to sit there and listen. Me and my husband share a space in the office. And so we're constantly both on conference calls. So that could be a bit much. And my husband has a TV in the office, so I probably know everything in the sports world right about now, probably more than I want to know. But just trying to make our day as normal as possible, on a schedule, and coming up with creative things, fun things for them to do, so they don't get bored or so they're not mentally, checked out. My 8th grader, he was a little sad that he couldn't return to school. But the other 2 were, they could take or leave it. So it's just in our home, it's about creating normalcy around we're still working, we're still in school, we're still got to stay on top of our game.
Certainly. Jobetta, what about you with a 2-year-old and I believe you said a 4-year-old?
5.5.
5.5.
Yeah. So we get up early. 8 sounds like heaven. If we're lucky, the toddler will have slept through the night. If not, usually my husband will get up in the middle of the night and go lie down with her in her room. So 5:30, if we're lucky, she's up demanding food. Thank you. She's up demanding food. And then, she's asking for cereal too. Yeah. And then we
look, she's the real star of the show.
Yeah, she's shy. Can you tell?
That's hard to believe.
So my husband.
You can tell. I was just giving a little example.
Yes. Thank you. So my husband's working from home. He works for
he works from home now.
A school district. Yes.
He works in a school district.
So he's in Zoom meetings all day. So I'm trying to keep this from happening on the Zoom meeting.
But this is
try to keep the toddler clothed when she's in view of his camera. We go on bike rides a lot. There's way more screen time than I'd like to allow. But we go on bike rides, walk the dog. Once a week, she's got an art class on Zoom. That's pretty cool. Otherwise, it's just keeping everybody semi-sane.
Trying to keep it as normal as Monica was
feeding them snacks.
Yeah.
Amazed at how fast milk goes when they're drinking it at home and not at daycare. I don't know how you can't stockpile milk. And so we're at the store way more than probably anybody else because you got to go get the milk.
Got to keep them drinking and getting that calcium in. Tamika, what about you? What does a day in the life look like for you now?
Well, I'd like to say that I'm not that mom, but I am. So we have a schedule.
Oh, wow.
It is posted in multiple locations.
Don't
So
make
I
me
have,
go after her.
I tried that on day one and it went to hell by lunch.
listen, I have my poor child and anybody who is going to have to deal with him as he gets older, because either he's going to be very on schedule or very off schedule. Depending on the things. So yeah, we have a schedule that is posted here at my workstation. His workstation is right there, so I can see what's happening when he's logged in. It's posted near his desk. It's posted in the kitchen on the refrigerator, where we all seem to spend a great deal of time now, going in the refrigerator. And so we are keeping the exact same schedule, not exact. I let him sleep until 7. So I can sleep till 6, but we're on the same schedule. So he is in, so class starts at about 8:10. So I have been in an interesting position because, what I learned right before school got out. So I'm in a very not great place with his school. I just want to confess that. So we're not in a great place. Found out right before all this happened that he was not on track, which no one had told me all year long. I found this out in March. And so for me, that has helped me. So I've been counting the blessing, I guess, of being able to be at home for the schooling. And even the post that I made about being so tired, for me, it's okay, because his schedule is not just the things they put in Google Classroom, but we're revisiting, right? Like, I need to see what your fundamentals are. I need to make sure that you have the tools that you need to be successful later. So it's a mixture. But if he finishes something before the time is up, he just goes and plays. So there's kind of there's a invisible line here, right? So when he crosses over the line, he is now at either his work desk or his computer desk. On the other side of the line, you can play and tear up all the things that I'm gonna have to replace after we finally get free, because it's gonna tear up everything in the house. So we're on a schedule around these parts. And of course, because of the nature of the work I do, there have been more meetings. So essentially, I'm on my same kind of 8 to 4, 4:30, meetings, emails, meetings. So we're on the same schedule, even for spring break. He was like, "Oh, well, no, I thought it was spring break." And I said, "No, sir. The teachers are on spring break.
Right.
You, sir, are not." So
Yeah.
same.
Yeah. Do you find that you're having more meetings now than you do when you're, at work and not under the
Absolutely. And I say all the time, I'm like, I know we're supposed to be socially distancing, but right now I very much feel socially aggressed. I feel like I'm being aggressed with meetings, and we need to talk about it. And after we send thousands of emails, and at this point, I'm just kind of like today, I said, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do it. Yesterday, I let him cry through that last bit of homework. I was like, no, you got to get finished, because tomorrow we're not doing anything. So we've been sitting around bumming it today.
That's
like
good.
True professionals.
And it's important to just bum it sometimes. Liz, I just want to mention this. I saw your post about I think it was about screen time, and oh dear, what was it? And I think you had to negotiate between the screen time and him not fulfilling or doing all of the hours of the schoolwork that he needed to do. It was something. And I thought, oh, that would be a great question for these moms. Kamilah, I haven't forgotten about you. But how are you, one, monitoring? How are you ensuring accountability? I think that was what the post was, the premise of it, the accountability piece.
It's an ongoing struggle for, I think, every parent. So with 7 children in the household right now, there were so many devices, so many cell phones.
That's the one, yeah.
We had televisions, we had computers, we had Chromebooks from the school. I mean, we have so many devices. And so it usually comes back to my 16-year-old son. If he would have been my first child, I would have one child because he required a lot of the parenting. But my children were constantly being distracted by these devices, and it changes the tone of your home. It completely changes how we interact with one another, how we talk to one another. And so we're in this constant state of trying to come up with something that allows them access to the devices, but that it's in a controlled manner. So the most recent coping mechanism that we've used, other than if you don't show up to class at 10 o'clock, you lose your cell phone for 24 hours. My children all wanted a Switch, and we are not the latest and greatest technology family. I've chosen not to do that because I feel like they need to work for some of the technology that they're gaining. But they all wanted a Switch. And so they had to turn in their Kindles and other devices. I think we collected 8 or 10 devices and said, okay, we have a week of cleanse. Actually, I think it was a month of cleanse. I think it started just as COVID-19 was started. We'll have a month of cleanse, and then we'll buy a Switch, and then you have a Switch. And that's what we did. And it was great until we hooked the Switch up. And then all of a sudden the cleanse was irrelevant and it all became about the Switch. So we now have, my children are being really quiet. You haven't heard them or seen them because at 1 o'clock on Friday, after their schoolwork is done, they get their Switch at 1 o'clock on Friday. It's one Switch for 7 kids, might I add. They get their Switch at 1 o'clock on Friday, and they can keep it until 11 p.m. on Saturday. And then it comes back to me for the remainder of the week. And there's some stipulations on that. When my 4-year-old starts screaming all the time, we put it away for an hour and get it back out after an hour. If he screams again, or if there's a fight, we take it away for another hour. They have 3 chances. And then after that, it comes back to me. It doesn't matter if it's 11 on Saturday or not. And so that has really helped the tone of our household. It's giving them a chance to make decisions about their lives and their media usage, while letting me have some control over how often they're using it.
And unbeknownst to them, you're teaching them discipline. You're teaching them not only discipline, but accountability. And I think that's tremendous, because at this point in life, in this environment and COVID-19, and we're all home and we're on devices, it's easy to get caught up. I know I get caught up sometimes, hours and hours on end on Instagram or Facebook or Netflix or whatever the case may be. But to bring it back in focus, you were talking about goals earlier and allowing them to give you their goals. And then this piece with technology, it's important. It's important to help them to know what's priority, and what can wait.
It shows them how they feel, that they're starting to notice how they feel when they are totally into this game. They feel powerless, because if the game's taken away, my life is going to end. And then suddenly their life doesn't end. And then their creative side is unleashed. And so they're empowered.
That's power. And that's power in and of itself. We have a question from the audience, and Kamilah, I want to start with you, but I want you to lead off with what a day in the life looks like. But this is the question. And ladies, this is for each of you. If classes don't resume in the fall, what is your game plan? So Kamilah, tell us what your day looks like. And then, if classes don't resume in the fall, what are you going to do?
Okay, so day in the life, we have a loose schedule. Let's say that we do have a schedule. It's just not hour by hour. And I'm finding the 2 girls that I have, they learn so differently. So my older daughter, she can log on to Google Classroom. She knocks out her work. She communicates with her teachers and her classes. And I really don't have to do a whole lot as far as helping her with her schoolwork. She'll get it done. After that, we try to do like a lunch around between 12, 1-ish, make sure they get some outside time, because we do from 2 to 3 is their technology time. So if they have done their work, they have 2 to 3, because then I can get on and I can do whatever work that I need to sort of get done before, I can be interrupted again. So it gives me like at least 1 good hour of like uninterrupted time. With my younger one right here, she has a hard time getting motivated. They're not used to using Google Classroom in her school. It's not a technology-based school. So it was all brand new. And so the teachers did actually a really good job of trying to get the kids on board. They do Zoom calls with the teacher, I think once a week. But there's a lot of worksheets. It's not, mom is not a good teacher. She misses she misses her teacher. And so it's been really tough just trying to get her just to do the basics. So we've come up with a couple different things. We used to write, we have to change it up every couple weeks. So we used to write it on the board, and then she could go and cross it off. Like we have a whiteboard in the basement the kids can write on. And then that started not being fun anymore. So then I had to write everything on little pieces of paper, throw it in a fishbowl, shake it up. Okay, everyone gets a turn to switch, to pick what she does next on her agenda. So we try to keep it fun. We try to just get it done. It's one of those things, like if she would just sit down and do it, she'd be done in like 2 hours. But because she just loves to take so many breaks and snacks, it takes way longer than 2 hours. But once that 2 o'clock time period starts creeping up, it's amazing how quick she gets it done. And so, well, yeah, we try to keep them with regular stuff. They have, my older one has guitar lessons online. The younger one has ukulele lessons. Their gymnastics is doing like an online Zoom class for them. We're taking advantage of the Mo Willems, Color with Mo during the lunchtime hour. We've been listening to Michelle Obama read books. So we're trying to take advantage of all the amazing resources that people have been posting. But honestly, trying to juggle all of the free stuff too, it feels overwhelming sometimes, right? It's like we have all these great resources. And then some days I'm like, if we just hit everything that we're supposed to do today, I'm calling that a win. Yeah. So, I think, go ahead.
And it's interesting you said there's another piece to this pressure, if you will, it's juggling the resources. So if you all will just talk amongst yourselves for a moment about, juggling these resources. Tamika, I know, you've lived for the most part professionally in the nonprofit sector, and you have access to many of these resources that we're talking about. How do you juggle that? You're juggling your work, you're making sure dinner's on the table. How do you keep the balls in the air?
I don't juggle the resources, right? The resources can stay where they are, because really I just need you to go over here and get this Eureka Math Module 7 Lesson 22 done, and all that other stuff, who cares? So really, also my child does not like art or art things. He likes reading. So he will just sit. So we have creative arts on the daily schedule. He's like, I don't want to draw with Mo anymore. I did that one thing. He's finding new people who are reading him books, right? So he just sort of manages that on his own. And thankfully, I'll say, like, he prefers to just go over to his bookshelf and get some books and read. Now, he doesn't want to do his work, but he will read all the books. But then the juggling comes in, right, when we are negotiating. So kind of when you think about that screen time and you think about all these things, because there's a lot of negotiating that has to happen, right, in order for you to finish your staff meeting, in order for you to finish reports, because the people still want their reports. They still want you to show up. They want you to turn those cameras on from time to time in these meetings. Don't just say that you're here. I want to see your face. So it is this constant struggle. And I think that is part of the overall exhaustion, right? Because before, our lives and schedules were like this. And now they're like this, right? They're just layered on top. They're just intertwined. So the exhaustion of, am I trying to pay attention to what the teacher is saying while I'm trying to send this email? Did I ever send? So it is exhausting. So I don't even know that I would say that I'm trying to juggle. It is, okay, well, of this box of things that I have, which are the things that I need to keep up? So if I can only throw one ball up in there at a time, then that's all I'm going to do, right? So that it's a give and take, and sometimes it's just to give up, right? Like he went to the field lesson today and he turned and he looked at me and he was like, and I was like, okay, just hit exit meeting. I can exit the meeting. I leave. I said, yes, because if you're going to be bored, you might as well go play with your toys. So, sometimes we just let the balls fall and keep it moving.
And sometimes you have to, and be okay with it. Be okay with it. Monica, go on. I'm sorry.
I have to admit, though, it's as you know, I've been a stay-at-home mom for the past 26 or 27 years, and so we've been, like this, throughout the whole process. So as I got my associates through master's degree, it was at home working, typing out reports and papers and projects and theses. And so when you're in the midst of it, you really just do it. You're surviving and you do it and you don't think a lot of it. And so watching other people in this stage right now and having so much respect for them, I'm like, wow, I have more respect for my role as a stay-at-home mom, because often we get lost in the shuffle of those things and don't realize the good works that we're doing and how hard they are at the time that we're doing them.
Good point. Very good point. Monica, if school doesn't start in the fall, what's going to happen to your three children?
We're going to keep rocking and rolling like we're doing right now. I actually have one that's doing better learning virtually than, he was doing at school. I mean, they both do well, but, he's more of a well-rounded child. So he's going to be wanting to know what, this person is doing and what that person is doing and trying to balance school life or trying to be involved, where now he's a little bit more focused. As opposed to, when he's there. We will keep the process moving just like it is. And thankfully I work for a company, and my husband as well, where they understand that school's out. So, and they know that my number one priority is my family. So we'll get to, we'll just keep rocking and rolling like we are. I feel that keeping in touch with the kids' teachers have helped me as well. That way they know that, hey, I care about what's going on. I want to know how their instruction is going. If I can't see what they're doing, I have no problem with reaching out to the teachers to say, hey, I know that Janelle turned in her work, but how's she doing in it? Because I can't see it once it's submitted, just to give her a little sense of independence when she's doing her virtual learning. I haven't seen any hiccups thus far, thankfully. And so if school does not return in August, we'll keep rocking and rolling, as we're doing right now.
Yeah. Jobetta, so you have a five and a half year old. Does she start school in the fall, or is that the next cycle?
Yeah, she's supposed to start kindergarten in September. Hi, Elena. She's supposed to start kindergarten, and I work in school, so I'm supposed to go back to work in September. And I, the thing is, I'm confident in my ability to either teach her myself if I had to, or to help her with whatever virtual learning the district's doing. But I got that one, and she's very clingy and she's independent and will play by herself, but she wants to be involved in everything. Like the very first day I had a schedule, and we tried to draw with Mo, and the toddler climbed up on the table and started throwing all the markers on the floor. So I don't know how homeschooling is going to work with that in the background. I think the older one would like it. I think she'd probably be interested in talking on Zoom, and I could bribe her into doing some worksheets and stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to work out with having to chase the toddler around, because my husband's got an office. He's not going to work from home indefinitely. He'll go in probably, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, you know what? Only time will tell. And based on what I've heard so far, you ladies are quite creative in your approach to this. Because really what it is, when you're juggling these balls, you have to know when to let them fall, like you said, Tamika. You also have to know which one to just hold. That might be that child who, is it as focused and you have to spend a little more time with him or her? Or, telling your husband, look, I need you to hold this ball for me while I go and do this. Or, maybe just putting your picture up on that Zoom because you really want to put your head on your arms because you're so exhausted. So it's all about knowing what works for you and your family in the moment so that you can better serve them for the next cycle. And that next cycle could be 2 seconds later, So yeah, it sounds like you all have the wherewithal and the creativity to, navigate this whole process for yourself and for your family. Let's see, we have another question. What has homeschooling taught you about your own schooling? So what you learned in the classroom, and have you had to relearn certain techniques? So who among you is teaching your child as opposed to them doing the virtual learning? Kamilah, you're with
whatever the teacher sends me, we get it done.
I try and do reading lessons in phonics. So that's, not anything official. I'm just trying to and teach the toddler shapes.
Yeah.
It's mostly just play learning right now.
Gotcha. Mom, what about you? I hear about this new math. I was terrible in math and still am. And I am so glad I'm not in school and I'm glad I don't have to teach anybody. But with this new math, are you relearning just, new techniques?
Well, I am thankful for the videos that the teachers send over that have instruction on them for my first grader, because if not, she was going to learn how to carry the one. I just can't. It just takes so much longer to do the new process. I don't understand it, but thankfully my boys have been through it, so they can kind of help her along as well. But the whole old school phonics and all that stuff and reading and language arts, all that stuff is kicking in for the first grader. And, sometimes to proofread what the boys are writing about. But yes, I'm thankful for the teachers that give instruction because she was going to learn how to carry the one.
That's me every day, all day.
Well, and Monica, I love that you said that your older kids are helping the younger one. Wait, I had a situation like that. Like the younger one she's done with me. She wants her teacher back. She's so done with her mom being the teacher. So I was like, okay, your sister is now your teacher. And it actually was really great. And it was fun to see them working together. It was fun to watch the older one be more patient than I was with her sister. And so I think that's been a good strategy. It doesn't always work, but it worked one day. So I'm calling it a win.
Now the lack of patience come in with my daughter when she wants to be the boss and tell the boys what to do.
Nice.
She's on that patience, but they try, and so I applaud them for that.
It's beautiful.
So I have homeschooled in the past, and so there is a very distinct difference between school at home and homeschool. When I homeschooled, I created the curriculum, I planned the lessons, and I was very in touch with everything that my children were learning. And with school at home, it's different because it is not our lifestyle. It is something that has been imposed upon us. They are still reporting to teachers, and teachers have very specific lessons that they've been doing all year that I may or may not be familiar with. And the number one thing that we've had to get used to is the technology. So when we first came, we were one of the first school districts in the country to come home. And when we first did, we continued the course that they had been following in the schools. Most of my children were already using Chromebooks in school. So that was not difficult for teachers to continue a little while. And then the next week, they were restructuring and doing new lesson plans. The next week, parents were complaining because we were getting, 20 billion emails a day for one child, let alone multiple children. So things changed again. The platforms kept changing. And so I think that within the last 2 weeks, we finally have settled into the platform, how often the teachers email, how we get in touch with the teachers. And so those, even with a school district that was technology based, we've been working that out. So I'm assuming that parents of students who have not been technology based are very frustrated just trying to find the computer, to have the resources for their children to learn how to work with those resources.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jobetta, you mentioned something that, of course, got a laugh out of all of us, and that's relating to just everyday items that you need, such as milk.
Yes.
You're in Washington State, which was the epicenter, of this whole COVID crisis.
Until New York, yeah.
And until New York, certainly. What was that like for you as it relates to trying to get the resources that your family needs? Because at one point, and even now, but I'm sure stay-at-home orders are gradually lifting. But what was it like when things were shutting down and things were running out?
It was weird because we happened by coincidence to be going to Costco. I think even on the way there, when the news broke of the very first death in the country, was over in the Seattle area. And so we got to Costco and there was toilet paper, but people were buying so much bottled water piled up so high they couldn't see over the carts, or like using those furniture, the furniture carts you use at Costco. And so I went to work the next day and was kind of laughing and was like, do people know the sewers still work? Like, it's fine. It's just water. And a coworker told me at some point in that week, a coworker said they had started blocking off the toilet paper aisle there and were having the big male employees like guarding it because people were getting testy about it. And still, even then, like working in a preschool, I'm terrified of the norovirus with those little kids. So I wasn't too much thinking about COVID yet. And then it just moved fast. Like we could kind of see it going, that things were going to have to change in the schools. And it was March 13th that the governor shut down the schools. So I knew from then, like, well, I don't have a job, so I'm just going to keep the kids home. And so we were kind of already staying home and hearing, like, there's no toilet paper, but we had been to Costco, so we were good on that.
Sorry about
and we were still shopping like normal. And like once things I don't know. I live in a really red area, and we've got a Democratic governor who people here don't like. So people here are kind of acting like it's not a big deal. So we get, we'll do grocery delivery or pickup, and we'll go to the store for milk. So it hasn't been too hard to get things except like toilet paper and Lysol. But they haven't been out of the house anywhere other than the neighborhood in
not my famous salad.
quite a while. So it's so it's weird because I agree with the governor, and he just extended the stay-at-home order through the end of the month. And announced there's going to be phases.
Get in the comment
but
and let me know if you like my favorite salad.
It's mostly a matter of can you schedule the grocery pickup or delivery around knowing when you're going to run out of stuff.
Before we go to the other panelists, Jobetta, what I've noticed is when you're talking, she wants to make an appearance. Isn't that something? I remember when I was younger.
I know.
I remember when I was younger, when my mom would be on the phone. Now I'm your daughter's age. So she's on the phone in the kitchen. Our refrigerator, of course, is there. And I would go, because she's not watching. Mom has no eyes on me. I would go in the refrigerator and I'd scoop out stuff that I could scoop out and eat. And Mom wouldn't be none the wiser.
Yeah.
it's
well,
funny.
And before all the technology, the toddler only kind of knew video chat through FaceTime. So every time somebody is on Zoom, especially on the phone, she thinks it's grandma. So I'll be on, I only have fun Zoom stuff because I don't have work from home, but every time I try and call someone, Sammy! And she'll come up and want to talk. But this one just likes the attention. She knows it's not grandma.
She's going to be in theater. Mark my word. For those in Atlanta, I can't find Lysol to save my life. I can't find Clorox wipes. And I understand why, but I want this stuff because of course we need it. So, but how has it been for you all in terms of making sure you have what you need for your household? If you all are meat eaters, we know now that many meat packaging plants are closing down. And so that's a resource that might be scarce. So how are you making sure your family has what they need? Kamilah, we can start with you.
Well, I want to give a plug to Fresh Harvest. We have been using them for a couple of months, and they are amazing. They're local farmers who they just deliver like weekly fresh fruits and vegetables. And so we were able to stock up on all the other stuff, but we still get our fresh harvest delivery each week, which has been so nice, not having to worry about getting to the store each week and knowing that we would still have, fresh fruits and vegetables. So I do love them.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tamika?
I go out, girl. I'm just gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it for real. I go out. So we're we're country girls, me and my sister. So we always have things. So we didn't have issues around, oh my goodness, we're out of Lysol wipes. Now I did go and get a couple. I was like, just in case, because people seem to be acting a little nuts. Let me just in case. So plenty of toilet paper and paper towel and that kind of thing. Well, paper towel has been running out the door. So for us, it's not the milk, it's the paper towel. Because every time the boy, he's eating and drinking all day and going to the bathroom all day, washing hands, his hands are like this big, but he needs this much paper towel every time he dries his hands, because we've gotten rid of all the towels and the reusables, but we have like a neighborhood grocer. So that time, 2 or 3 weeks ago when it was actually spring, we would go out for our afternoon walks, and we just walk up to the grocery store or walk up to kind of the takeout places. And I go to the chiropractor every other week. And after I leave my 12-minute appointment, I'm like, you know what I need to do? I need to go to Target. And that's what I do. I put my mask on and I, do my thing, and I just kind of zip in and out. I'm just like, I just need to, because for me, that is the only time I have. I don't have separate time. I don't have husband who takes the kids. It's me and him from the time our eyes open to the time our eyes close. And so I take we were having wine, and I'm the only one who's imbibing. But on the girls' night, and I realized it was going to the chiropractor has been the only time apart from my son that I have had. So that is an actual, when I leave home, go to the chiropractor, swing through Target. So, an hour and a half every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. That's it. So I've been going out just for my own sanity, doing a lot of pickups. Best Buy, will bring it out to the car. So I've been doing a lot of curbside pickups, and really just to kind of break the monotony of being in the house, and because the weather has been nuts. Yeah. So yeah, I have all the things that I need, plus more. I've been going to get my meal prep from my favorite vegan chef. I've been going out.
Yeah. And you bring up a very good point. We all define self-care differently. It looks different for each of us. It may not be bubble baths. It may not be, a massage. It may not be any of that. It could be going in the bathroom, closing the door, and just breathing deeply for 5 to 8 minutes. That's self-care. And so thank you for bringing that up, because I want to now talk about, Monica, what does self-care look like for you now? You have 3 children, you have a husband, you have work, you have to do everything that you were doing before COVID-19. So what does self-care look like for you now?
Much like what Tamika said, I have to go into the office at least once or twice a week. So I use that time to stop by Publix and go down the aisle and say, oh, we need this, or this is missing from the house. Or stop by, a friend's house, of course, practicing social distance to drop things off or just chat. I go to the grocery store that's near my house, so it's nothing for me to see someone in there that I know and talk for about 15 minutes, like, oops, I'm on the clock. I need to get back to work. Self-care is I'm learning more things about, my hair. Haven't been to the salon in forever. I'm missing it because I just missed that downtime. But just learning how to do more with my own hair. And I just go into the bathroom and just shut the door and pretty much dare anybody to come in there after.
Answer at your own risk.
If I don't say anything, they'll come in there and ask questions and ask me to do things. And I just, even during the work day when I've just had too much or too many emails or too many things just coming at me, I'll push myself away and just go lock away for, 15 or 20 minutes. And I had to learn that early on, because when it first started, I didn't leave the house for like almost a week and a half, and I could feel myself getting in a slump, and I did not want to do that. And so I am still grateful for my church. We have Bible study virtually on Sundays, and that's been a huge help for both me and my husband. So just still connecting with my, church, who's a loving, loving environment. Virtual chat with my girlfriends with a little sip. So those are my self-care items. I have to just still maintain the me time, because if not, I will not be available mentally or physically to help my family.
Elizabeth, what does self-care look like for you? How do you define it for yourself? And then how do you live it?
Oh, I have never had a problem with self-care. I'm not the type to get burnt out. I was the baby of the family, so it's all about me, man. It's nice. One of the things that I've always been possessive of and continue is my date night with my husband. So every week we go out and get takeout or have food delivered in and come up to our bedroom and just have a movie or whatever, so that we have that reconnect time. We're also supporting the local economy, as we do that. I love walking. So walking is definitely me time. And then, I'm not afraid to go and engage in something I love to do. I love shopping. I think a lot of us love to shop. So I've been defining that, though. I've been saying, how can I support my friends who are artisans or who are writers? And I've been able to have that. I think me time also is that self-fulfillment, knowing that you're helping someone else at the same time as you're helping yourself. And I've gotten some beautiful gifts that way, some really good literature that way. And so it's I can't give anything to anyone if I have nothing myself.
Absolutely.
That's right. You cannot, work from an empty vessel. We've got to continue to replenish and renew ourselves. Really quickly, Jobetta and then Kamilah, what does self-care look like for you?
I don't know. I don't get a lot of time. Usually after the oldest goes to bed, my husband will go lie down with the toddler and get her to go to sleep, and I'll just go watch TV for a little while. Or during the day, sometimes I'll schedule my grocery pickup for the store as far from our house as I can get. And then I get like half an hour in the car with the podcast or some music or something. So I'll just figure out an excuse to go for a drive.
Yeah. And, I think it's important. There's no my self-care is more valuable than her self-care, or she's doing it different than I am. Maybe I need to tweak mine. No, self-care is specifically for you, and it's adjusted and created for you and what you need in that moment. So I like that each of your processes is different because it's catered to you. Kamilah, what about you?
Yeah, similar, kind of a little bit of everything. I try to, I feel like I'm never alone, ever. And so sometimes I will legit hide from my kids because they find me. So it's like, oh, we're going to play hide and seek. So yeah, my husband works out of the house. And so his job has not changed, which leaves me to sort of manage all the things. And so, yeah, we did a girls' night last week where we social distance, we got takeout and we sat in lawn chairs in the parking lot 6 feet away and just were able to chat. I also have been known to go to Target on an occasion just to browse and see if there's anything that I might possibly need. We try to get out and deliver
Target.
all the things from Target. We try to do things that are going to be uplifting. So we try to bring treats for friends or, just try to get out and do something where you're, of course, maintaining safe and, but just so we're not all up on each other.
Right.
So.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And
It's
I
rare.
tell
It's
you,
different. Yeah.
Kamilah has, I really want to be adopted into your family. And I've told you that before because the things that she does with her girls, I mean, it's amazing. And so I think it's really important too, to make sure you're doing these things to keep life fun and interesting and break up that monotony. My producer is telling me we have 5 minutes left, but I think we're going to carry this conversation on just a little bit longer because there are a few more questions. How have you explained this pandemic to your child, and what questions have they had for you? Monica, can we start with you first?
When everything first started shutting down, we just explained to the kids the importance of staying at home, keeping ourselves healthy. We're believers of taking vitamin C every single day. So making sure you keep up with that and, your allergy medicines and all that, because one of the things that we emphasized was keeping our immune system healthy so that we would not be subject to keeping this, and wiping down everything when we bring stuff from the store, and wiping down the counters, and, bathing every day. That's a fight sometimes, but for the most part, they've listened and they understand, and we do mental checks, every now and then, just to make sure that, hey, are you okay? Because as a mother, you can, tell when something's not quite right. So we try to do things differently to lift their spirits, not really giving in to, their demands. The boys wanted a water slide, and so we were like, why not? So once or twice a week, they go out and do the water slide. Just here at our homes, we've had social distancing, birthdays. And so it's unique, but they seem to have, adapted to it pretty well. And I just noticed probably a couple of days ago that the little one has not been out of the house since it started. I mean, she won't go to the store. She doesn't ask to go to the store with us. She'll go with us as, a family to places, and she seems unbothered by it. So I'm thankful for that as well. But for the most part, they've been understanding, and they know the rules as far as, keeping themselves clean and healthy so that we can remain safe from it.
Monica, your little one isn't a Target shopper yet. Trust me. When she becomes a Target shopper, she'll want to leave.
I've been asking, when is Claire's opening up? She said today, well, we haven't been to the mall in a long time. And I know her first place is whenever everything opens back up and we're good, she's going straight to Claire's.
I know my daughter's birthday was during the quarantine, and that was what she wanted to do, was go to Target. So just to browse, pick one toy.
Elizabeth, how have you explained this situation that we're in now to your children, and what questions have they had for you, if any?
Most of my children, my 5 oldest children at home, are 9 and up. So that they're hearing our conversations. They were discussing things at school. They watch the news. They're able to comprehend it. I think the hardest has been with my 4-year-old. We're very close. We're a very close family, and my older children lived nearby, and he's not able to. If we visit them, we're a good distance apart. He can't run over and give them a hug. And when things began, we were able to walk outside to the local park, and then the playground was off limits, and then the fields were off limits, and then they took the basketball hoops down. So one by one, little things that we would do together as a family were eliminated. And so he started calling it the coronavirus, and he wants to knock out the coronavirus. And he is very passionate about praying that the coronavirus goes away. And I'm grateful that he's the child that he is, because he's very easygoing. He's very obedient. He's trusting that mom and dad know what they're saying, but he doesn't really understand it. And we have to have these conversations with our children, though, because my 9-year-old he was watching the news, and he learned that the coronavirus, the COVID-19 is affecting more African Americans than any other race in our area. And he was very concerned. And we didn't know this until we were sitting down for a family scripture study. We were praying and we were preparing for a prayer. And he's like, can you please pray for all of my friends? He's like, they're not safe. And I said, well, what do you mean? And then he told me what he had heard on the news, and we were able to discuss it and how scary that is for a 9-year-old to suddenly it's driven home. It's not just numbers on a screen. It's not just someone else's grandma or grandpa in a nursing home. It could be your best friend. And how do you cope with that? And as a family, we do a lot of time coping with prayer and talking about our belief system and what that means. And as a mom, I just remind my children that we're a family. Whether one of us should happen to pass away, we are a family. And then they're old enough that they can comprehend that, and it brings them a bit of comfort. But these are hard conversations to have with anyone. They're hard for us to, I mean, if we talk about death, sometimes we feel like we're signing our death certificate. So we'd rather not talk about it. We can't distance ourselves. Like sometimes, often it's sad. If a child dies in a car, everyone's like, oh, I wouldn't be that mom. I would never, Well, the reality is any of us could be that parent, but that's how we separate ourselves from tragedy. And now this tragedy can hit any of us at any time, and there's not a way to separate. And it mentally can be very taxing. And so we do have those regular check-ins.
And that's so important. When we get the flu, when we get the cold, we take our temperatures to see where we are in this whole virus process. And I agree with you. It's so important to check the temperature, the emotional temperature, the spiritual temperature, the mental temperature of our children when we're faced with trying times. So I can appreciate how you approach that with your children. Tamika, what's your little one asking you? Does he seem to be aware of what's going on, in the sense that, gosh, something's wrong. What is this?
He is very aware. My child is a lot like me. He tends to be very nonchalant. And so the first day out of school, so that Fulton County situation, and then we were home that Wednesday, I believe. And so he was just like, oh, we get to stay home, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, oh, well, let's go somewhere. Let's go. And I'm just like, no, we got to stay home. And then then we went through, and they had that last 2 days of school, and then Friday. So probably that first weekend when he noticed that we were not making moves, like we weren't running errands, and don't you have somewhere to go, mommy? Because that's his favorite thing to say. Don't we have somewhere to go? Don't you have somewhere to be? Like, nah, bruh, we got to stay home. And so I was just like, please stop asking me. And I was like, you know what? Let me just pull up this CDC website, right? So put up the website, and the standard image that's there, the red, the molecules, whatever. And I was like, see, it's a disease, it's a virus, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, all right. He went on. So this wasn't over the weekend, because then we went back to school before they got out. So we were riding to school. School is right down the street. We listened to NPR. The Italy story was on. And so they were talking about how, the people had died. So I started turning the radio down, and he said, don't turn that down. I can't hear. And I was like, all right. So I turned it back up, and they were talking about the deaths and everything. And then it got very quiet in the back seat. And I was like, oh, Lord, I knew what was about to happen next. And so he was like, wait, so they had to close Italy because of the coronavirus? And I said, well, yeah. Well, why would they do that? I was like, well, it helps them contain. Got quiet again. So are people dying from coronavirus? And I was like, oh, Lord, here we go. I was like, yes, people can die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die from coronavirus. And I said, not you. You're young. You're healthy. You're spry. You can recover. And he was like, well, that's just, hopefully we'll get to go outside today. And I said, oh, okay, well, good talk. I guess that's it, right? And since then, he's just been really kind of disgusted about it. Why can't we go on vacation? Why haven't we been to the beach? Why couldn't we go to the pool? Like he swims and he does. When am I going to go to summer camp? So mostly now he's just disgusted about the whole situation and everything. He's mad at the COVID-19. Why COVID-19? Why COVID? Sir, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, look, he likes to swim. I like to swim too, so I'm really frustrated about that piece.
Yes.
So I can totally understand. Kamilah and then Jobetta, what are your girls asking you about this whole situation, and how are you explaining it to them?
I mean, they haven't asked too much. I think that it's funny because, we are typically on the go family. We, activities and all the things. And so my older one is really reluctant to go places nowadays. And it's very shocking to me. The younger one, she still wants to go anytime I go anywhere. But the older one just hasn't had as much of an interest. And so, she's more quiet. She's more reflective. Like, I don't know. She hasn't really come to me yet. I'm kind of waiting for those conversations. We did, have the conversation of what it is and, how people get it, that kind of thing. But, nothing crazy out of the ordinary. We more have conversations about just giving people grace because this is all new for everybody. And we have conversations about, if mom is breaking down and crying, it's okay to cry, and I feel like I'm giving us all a lot more grace than I would in a normal circumstance, because this is not normal. No one is equipped for this. We are all winging it. And, my kids I feel like they're doing a great job. But we're having a lot of meltdowns. There's a lot of things that are scary and weird and different. And so just remembering that for everyone, people at the grocery store, give them grace. Our teachers, bless their hearts, we're all just trying to figure this out. So we have more of those type of conversations about, why I think people are acting differently. We're all figuring it out together. So
yeah. Grace is critical. I'm telling you,
because I need it.
Yeah, we all do. Because as you said, this is new for all of us. We're feeling our way and learning in the process. Jobetta, really quickly, what are your children asking you about this situation, and how are you explaining it to them?
Well, the 2-year-old, obviously, if she doesn't have the resources to know how to ask why we're suddenly home all the time, she just sits on my lap all day and wiggles around. And the 5-year-old kind of was aware, because starting in January or February, because there were cases in our state, they started making them wash their hands more at school, at her daycare and stuff like that. And I kind of try to answer her questions as age appropriately, honestly, as possible. So she knows that the reason she can't go anywhere in public is that there's a virus and you can catch it if you touch things or if you're around people. And so once in a while, she'll stomp around and yell how it's not fair and she wants the virus to go away. And I say, that's right, it's not. It stinks. So she doesn't know details about, but she knows that it's something that can make us really sick and that we just have to stay home till it goes away and it'll be safe to see people again.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's really, we were talking about checking in. It's in situations like this, when things are so uncertain, it's so important to have the honest conversation, age appropriate, as you said, but having these honest conversations so you can empower them to know that, mom and dad, they have me, or mom has me, or dad has me, depending on the structure. So it's really important to have those honest conversations. Monica, I want to ask you really quickly if you could tell us what your children are talking to you about this whole COVID-19 piece and what you're explaining to them. And if I'll give you 2 questions, actually, that piece, and a question came in from Jessica Wilcox, and we'll close out with this question. Do any of you have special needs kids? If so, how are you dealing with the changes with your family and special needs child? So Monica, what questions, if any, are your children asking you about the COVID-19 crisis, and how are you explaining it to them? And if this question applies to you from Jessica, you can go on and segue into that.
The questions that they are having is more so, what are the symptoms looking like? And can, like what Elizabeth said with her kids, can people die from this? We had to take a break from the news because it was to the point where it was scaring them. And my pastor actually mentioned that just don't sit and watch the news all day. And, it becomes a habit because you can get in there and just look at story after story and just, create worry within yourself. And so we had to take a break from that as well. My boys are a little older, so they can kind of understand what's going on with it and the things that can happen. But it's the little one that is really, it's scaring her. And so we just say, these are the things, you have to do, wash your hands frequently. You got to eat properly. You have to, exercise. So she is taking like virtual gymnastic classes and, keeping herself active. My husband's keeping the boys active by doing daily workouts. But I just have to instill in them, we're going to be safe, here in our home. We can't go out. I'm even
Monica, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Monica?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what happened?
I don't know, technology.
But yes, just, if we're practicing safety measures here in the home, then they can carry it, outside with them. So they know that once we've been at the store or once we've been outside, the first thing you do is wash your hands, and not touching over your face or sitting all over the furniture or anything. So they're pretty resilient. Kids in general are pretty resilient as long as we be truthful with them, as long as we explain to them fully what's going on and not try to hide or sugarcoat anything. So for the most part, they are understanding what's going on, and we've given ourselves only, one time a day to watch the news as opposed to all day. And the second question does not apply to my home.
Okay. Does Jessica's question apply to any of you ladies? If you have special needs children, how are you managing, coping? Do you have friends that have special needs children? Are you, no? Jessica, sorry, we don't have an answer.
Oh, I have a daughter with significant social anxiety. So actually our concern have been school with her. So it took us a while to get her in school, and I was concerned what coming home would be like. And it's actually been an eye-opener for me about the process of growth, because with special needs, there's also growth. And sometimes as families, we are the last people to see that. So my daughter's 19. She's a senior in high school. This is her graduating year. And it's her second senior year because we moved and she missed some credits. So talk about, your social anxiety could be just complicated by that scenario. But it was an opportunity for me to see where she's at now, as opposed to where she was at 5 years ago when we started the journey. She loves Zoom with her classmates, and she just had a peer review today. She expressed how she's sad because she doesn't get to throw her cap into the air. We weren't going to go to her high school graduation because we thought that would be too painful for her. And now I know that it wouldn't have been too painful for her because she's progressed. We just couldn't see it before now. And so that has been one of those lights that I didn't expect from this time. Whereas I have other friends who are working with their special needs children and are finding very clearly that the schedule that Tamika has, that is a schedule that they need. They need to have the regularity. They need to have the schedule. And it's very difficult for parents, especially if you're not schedule oriented, to recreate that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I said that was the last question, but I really want to close out with this because as has been the thread in all of this, we're learning about our children and their needs, how they learn, where they were or were not in this whole educational process before homeschooling happened. We're learning their likes, their dislikes. We're learning that our oldest has the courage and the confidence and the empowerment to teach the younger one. But I want to know, How have you all grown? What has this experience taught you about yourself? Jobetta, we'll start with you, Elizabeth, Monica, Kamilah, and Tamika. So what has this experience taught you about yourself?
Well, when my oldest was a baby, I did not like maternity leave, and I decided I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I was really excited to go back to work. And then I really actually kind of like two. I think it's really fun to see how fast they grow and learn. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I could have been a stay-at-home mom when she was 2. And now I'm stuck at home with a 2-year-old, and it turns out I was right that I need to be at work. I love my kids, but I need to be, even though I work in a preschool, so I'm surrounded by kids the same age all day anyway, I have to be outside of the home and have my own thing. Mm-hmm. Turns out I was very correct about that.
So you knew all along.
Oh, yeah.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, I learned that I've really become an introvert. Not a lot of my life has really changed that much. And I think how sad is that I'm happy at home, don't get me wrong, but it really helped me to evaluate and say, okay, there's more I need to be doing away from home. And I need to make that more of a regular process of my life, because I should not be spending my life in quarantine.
That's a really profound observation. Self-awareness for sure. Monica?
I used to wish to be able to work from home. My job didn't allow me to. And once I got to that point, I don't like working from home. I'm a little bit of a social butterfly, so I like to just leave my desk and go talk to somebody else in another department, or, see how somebody else's weekend did. And I mean, if I'm here in the house with everybody every day, I know what everything went on. My kids and Will, they don't like watching what I watch, so I can't talk about my TV show. So I am desperately, well, not desperately, but I'm loving my girlfriend chats, because it allows me to have that outlet. So I do know for now that I can't work from home, at least not with everybody here. Maybe if it was a different situation, then we can revisit that. Right. And just the fact that, I love everything Clay kids. I mean, I'm so involved, in everything that they're doing and concerned, and, don't want them to fall off. And I want them to be ready when school, starts back next season. So I'm just all things Clay kids and don't like working from home.
And you know what? I think it's so important for us to honor that, because there's a population of women, moms, who love being home, and that is wonderful. And then there's a population of moms who don't. And each of these populations should be okay with that for the other population, showing each other grace. It's so critical, so critical. Kamilah, what has this experience like?
I feel like I'm still learning, but I think I could work from home if my kids were gone. It's been fun. You can throw in a little laundry in between Zoom calls, or, being home. I actually kind of have enjoyed that part of it. I'm definitely not a homeschool mom, so I'm with you, Jobetta. Get those kids to school ASAP. But I also just feel like I've loved learning other women, other moms' journeys. Like, we are all so different, and we've all somehow made it work. And that's been really cool. It's fun to see what works for another family. Sometimes you incorporate it, sometimes you don't, and you say, good job with that schedule. But I think, just like you said, Paulette, like honoring wherever you are, and it's okay.
It's okay.
And just being okay with that. Because I'm an okay mom. I'm not amazing. I'm the world's okayest mom, I think honoring that and being cool with it, I'm good with it.
Yeah. What about you, Tamika?
Okay. You can never find the mouse, right? When you're trying to unmute. Right. It's like, and this is a touch screen. I don't know why I didn't do it. Anyway. So what I have already known. So before this, our telework policy is fantastic. So I work from home once a week. So on Wednesdays, which gave me a break from people at the office, gave me some time away from my child. So I already knew that working from home full time was not my zhuzh. That's still true.
Mhm.
I already knew that I got my child to school on time and each day because he needed to be there and not here. That is still true. If I could get him there now, I would. So I'm not meant to be here and being an educator. So these are things that, and I'm an introvert. And so when I don't have, even if it's just an hour of just quiet, and my sister is so funny, and hopefully she's not watching this and she won't hear it later. But it kind of freaks her out if I'm just sitting quietly, right? She's like, "Oh, well, do you want to?" I'm just like, I just want to sit here quietly. Mamas are okay when we're sitting quietly, but that is something that I have learned in my 9 years as a mama. People don't like for mamas to just sit still and be quiet. It's always oh, are you okay? I'm fine. I just want to be left alone, which is not happening right now. So all these things I kind of knew, right, already. And I think the thing that I'm learning the most is kind of that patience, balance of the things that I need to do, and am I doing enough? I feel like I've been battling during this period of, was I doing enough, when it comes to Blake and his school situation? Have I been doing enough? And how much of this, if I would have, if. So I think for me, the biggest learning piece has actually been more about grace for myself. And showing myself grace and being okay with right now, this is not working. And also being okay with, woo, yes, Lord, I did it, and celebrating those moments and being okay with that. So really it's been kind of different for me because a lot of things I already knew and they remain factual, but just the patience, the grace, and also Eureka math. I'm learning Eureka math. I'm unthrilled.
Oh my goodness. Well, Jobetta, Elizabeth, Tamika, Kamilah, and Monica, this has been a wonderful conversation. And I hope the moms and non-moms watching have been able to relate, can glean a little bit of what might work for you now that you've heard the stories of my panelists. And grace. Grace is the takeaway. Thank you all for watching. Jobetta, Elizabeth, Tamika, Kamilah, Monica, thank you so much for saying yes and being willing to come on and share your experiences during this COVID-19 crisis. We really appreciate it. If you all want to follow them if you have further questions, feel free to do so. If you have more questions after the broadcast, go on and put them in the comments below. And I just ask you ladies if you'll take a moment to just check back periodically tonight to see if there are any more questions for you. That'd be great. And thank you all for sticking with us for this 4-part series, Flattening the Curve. This pandemic swept the world. And of course, it's a pandemic. It is a worldwide crisis. And at the end of the day, it's how you handle it. It's how you show compassion. It's how you show grace for yourself and for others. And that's what gets us through the hard times. So I hope you're showing yourself grace. I hope you're showing those that you don't necessarily agree with politically grace. I hope you're showing your spouse or your children or those you care for grace during this process, because we're all trying to unpack it. I want you to stay tuned because there will be more projects coming from the series, and I'd love for you to follow